Pick up your gear and open your chests. Throw on your armor and head out on a quest. Hey, hey, it's a brand new day. On the Sword Coast, your allies will help with blades and bows and magic as well. Hey, hey, heroes on their way. Fighting forever against overwhelming odds. Fighting together in favor of multiple gods. Idle champions of the forgotten realms. Idle champions, adventure never ends. Idle champions, get you on a band. Idle champions, you will say it again. Idle champions. From Waterdeep to Icewind Dale, head out to Chull or Shadowfell. Hey, hey, together we stay. Walk to the monsters, walk to the boss, walk to the right, it's never a loss. Hey, hey, bad guys to slay. Fighting forever against overwhelming odds. Fighting together in favor of multiple gods. Idle champions of the forgotten realms. Idle champions, adventure never ends. Idle champions, get you on a land. Idle champions, you will say it again. Idle champions.
Oh, hey, that's my cue. That's my cue. Hold on, there we go. Hey, play Karlach Meta. Yeah. Welcome, folks. I was trying to get my familiars. I'm like, we gotta get the right familiars out. It's gotta be fun familiars. Welcome to Gaarawarr's Guide, the tutorial show. Yeah, Sean's like, oh my god. Oh my god. Why do we have this guy on our channel? We are back once again with another tutorial show where I will talk about a certain topic for about an hour and then answer questions in the second hour. Today's topic, it's been a long time coming. Literally, we were going to do this last month and it got delayed and I've been waiting for it. I was waiting for it even for last month. It's here, folks. It's the Karlach Meta. We're going to talk about Bay. Firework. Look, Karlach's now my favorite champion in Idle Champions. And so today we're going to talk about Karlach DPS. That's what I mean when we talk about a meta. Usually we're talking with Idle Champions. We're talking about building a formation around a DPS champion. So we're going to be talking about, how do you best optimize Karlach DPS, or just how do you have a lot of fun with Karlach DPS? Because let's be honest, throwing around the terms best doesn't really work with this game because everything is so dependent on your account and its progress. Really, seriously. You can't stop listening to people who are like, this is the only way to play this game. That's not a thing. So we're going to talk about a potential way to play Karlach, and we're going to talk about the way I play Karlach, which I have done not only on this account, which is my main account. This is my now 7-year-old account. As of 2 days ago, I have been playing on this account for 7 years. Yeah. So this is my 7-year old account. I'll be talking about it here, but I've tested it here. I also tested it on a brand new account, not too long ago when I was doing my free to play playthrough of the game. And even on that account with, average gear, like 5 blues and an epic, she was destroying things. So she is one of the reasons I wanted to do this. She is a champion, a DPS champion that you can get early and you can use the entire game, and she scales very well, even without lots of item levels, which is important for the early and mid game. But even then, when you throw item levels on her, she does well. And now, is she, the most OP champion in the game? No, but that's honestly, you're not looking for end game OP when you're starting off, or even in the mid game. You only start looking for champions that scale like that truly when you transition into the late game. Because before that, they're not necessarily gonna perform as well as a champion that's just real strong. That's just real strong scaling, like Karlach. So we should probably get into it. First off, if you have any question, you put question : like it says down there in the white box in front of your question today in chat, and Sean will grab them. Sean's in the production booth, grabbing questions. Yes, just like the announcement from Moobot just now. And put them in a document, because again, I'm going to be talking about Karlach, and then for an hour ish, and then in the second half of the show, I will then dive into the questions. Yes, you, Sean. Yes, you. All right. Yeah. So this is Karlach. Everybody say hi. Chibi Karlach went, wow. See, I couldn't ignore that question. So let's just but we'll leave Karlach here on Area 21. You might see a bunch of faces familiar to her on the bench, although this one's got a skin on, but Dark Urge. Karlach is part of the Absolute Adversaries. I'm gonna start this conversation off by saying the Absolute Adversaries are obviously from Baldur's Gate 3. They are representing this game in a lot like they exist in Baldur's Gate 3, meaning they don't always fit together in a formation. Like you see a lot of people doing this, and I want to just kind of try to encourage thinking in a different way. It doesn't mean, you play the game however you want, but you don't just throw in everyone that has an Absolute Adversaries tag into a formation and run with it. That isn't necessarily the best thing to do. In the same way, I've got some Heroes of Baldur's Gate here. In the same way, you don't just throw a bunch of Heroes of Baldur's Gate in. There's a lot. There's 10 of them in the game, but they don't necessarily fit together. These are examples of affiliations where they are representative of a group, but they aren't necessarily a fighting group, or an adventuring group. Like say, oh man, and then my mind just went blank. The Companions of the Hall. The Companions of the Hall are designed to work together, because they are an adventuring group, right? Heroes of Erois are designed to work together, right? Like these are groups that are built around, their stories built around them as a group, right? Here's a Baldur's Gate. This is a collection of champions that come from Baldur's Gate games or comic books. Look, if they existed in the Baldur's Gate mythos, they're probably in here one way or another, but not necessarily all at the same time, and nor should they be. And with Absolute Adversaries, When you play Baldur's Gate 3, you're either playing as one of them and then getting some of the others to join you, or you are playing as your own created character and choosing some of these to join you, and their alignments and dispositions don't always match, and so sometimes you don't get to put them in a group. Spoiler alert, the way I played the Dark Urge, I did a John Wick playthrough of the Dark Urge, so I had a human monk, and I leaned into the urge. Like, I encouraged, not only did with my character, with the Dark Urge, I fully leaned into I made the darkest choices that came up as options, but I also encouraged everyone else in my party to do the same, and you just flat out don't get a lot of characters as companions. Because when you are that kind of Dark Urge, a lot of these characters don't want to be in your party. Yeah. So you got to think about it in these terms. This is how they came to the game. That means they don't always fit together. And on top of that, you really, when it comes down to trying to build a formation around a primary DPS, you need to understand that champion's kit. And then look for the strongest ways to support it. Okay? And that means then looking at especially when it comes to an affiliation, reading anybody in the affiliations kit, like reading through their abilities and seeing, like, is this a benefit to this person? Or is it creating an extra situation that just makes it harder to build, to give them the best possible support, right? Because the way we build a formation is we take our primary DPS and then we give them the best combination of tanks and supports to ramp up their damage as high as possible so they can push as far as possible. That's the way idle champions. Okay. If you're trying to, like, build the strongest formation, that is what we're talking about optimizing your formation around any DPS. Which is why a lot of times people are like, what formation should I use to complete this? Well, we don't know. We have no way of knowing, because you have to find the DPS that is the strongest for you based off gear and feats and all kinds of other things, and item levels. And then find the best supports for them in that situation, right? So this is so what we're talking about today when we're talking about the Karlach meta. I want to be clear. You can just throw Karlach in with your best supports and have a blast. But I'm going to talk about a couple of the ways that you can really try to optimize it. We'll talk about using Karlach with some absolute adversaries, like as the basis to build around, and then we're going to talk about my favorite. But first, we got to talk about Karlach. Female Tiefling Barbarian. She has 3 roles: DPS, tanking, and support. Today, we are specifically focusing on DPS. When I talk about being a Karlach main, I'm talking about I use her to damage things, which means I'm not using her support functionality. I'm not using her tanking functionality. Okay. So base attack, great axe cleave. She attacks the closest enemies with a swing of her great axe. So she does get an AoE, but it is a single hit right away for a DPS. That is a good thing that she can AoE wave clear if they're building up on your front line. But like, that's positive, but a negative in that she only gets 1 hit. Okay, so we gotta keep track of this stuff, because what you want to do is minimize your negatives when you're building a formation if possible. And maximize your positives. So she is a champion of Zariel. This is her passive. So she can be used in any Zariel patron adventure or variant, even if she would not normally be able to be used there. So learning how to use her is great, because that's an entire patron. Patrons are mid to end game content that you have to do, or that you should be doing, because that's the game, is solving those puzzles and doing those hard variants. You will always be able to use her in throughout that. So learning how to use her as a DPS, she will always be available as a DPS, or she will always be available as a tank, or as a support. But so understanding her kit is good, real good. Her main buff the Fury of Avernus. She increases the damage of all champions, including herself, in her column. So all champions in her column and the column behind her by an amount. The amount's going to vary with a lot of things, right? So this is her buff. It is a self buff, but it can also buff other people. Again, we're talking DPS today, so this is one of her main primary buffs to herself. Ceramorphosis. Every absolute adversary's champion has Ceramorphosis as a base or can spec into a Ceramorphosis specialization. Your formation gains one Ceramorphosis stack due to the Mind Flayer, Tadpole, and Karlach's Brain. Karlach increases the health of all other champions by 20% of her max health, plus 2% for each Ceramorphosis stack the formation has, stacking additively. This is, I cannot say this enough, this is a non-factor for her as a DPS. Her damage is not based on her health. There are situations where, hey, if you're having survivability issues, that this might come into play, like pushing super deep. But unlike the other absolute adversaries, whose main buff usually gets better, or damage gets better with tadpoles, hers doesn't. And this is why I don't run her in an absolute adversaries formation. This is the main reason. I don't need to build around tadpoles for her, because it doesn't make her do more damage at all. Now, there's people who are going to be like, but it buffs the other absolute adversaries if you have them in the formation. Yeah. We're not talking about them, though. We're talking about her. Tadpoles do not help her. They can help, if you add other absolute adversaries to your formation, they can help them. But the question will always be, do they help them enough to give up a different support or a different tank? That's what you got to keep in mind here. Rage. This is kind of, I know the other was her main buff, but this is her main thing. Her kit is built around her rage and what it does to her other ability. So when Karlach attacks or is attacked, she gains a rage stack. So if she's being attacked as a tank and enemies are stacking up, she's building rage. If she's attacking, she's building rage. It caps at 50 stacks. So right off anytime you hear stacks, you should start getting excited, because we like stacks in this game. Stacks on stacks on stacks. Karlach increases the effect of the Fury of Avernus by 25% for each rage stack she has, stacking multiplicatively. That's the good way. That's what we want. When we get excited about stacks, we're like, ooh, is it going to stack additively or multiplicatively? She stacks multiplicatively. That's the good way. That's what we want. We want every one of these stacks multiplying against itself. This has the potential to be one of the strongest kind of abilities in the game. Whenever you have this, and then what you look for is, does it have an item, and does that item boost the pre-stack multiplier? That's what we're looking for. In this case, no. But it is a multiplicatively stacking ability. Those are real strong. Stacks are reduced by 60% when changing areas. So you build up and then it drops a bit. And you build up and it drops a bit. So she has what I refer to as an area ramping damage. So in any given area, she can ramp up her damage. Which means a lot of the times, and this is when people make comparisons with Karlach and another DPS, they're just throwing him the formation, looking at the numbers, and they're going, no, she's not that great. If she is not ramped up, you are not seeing what she can offer, right? So keep that in mind. She wants to ramp up. Infernal Engine. While Karlach has 20 or more rage stacks, she ignites on fire, dealing 0.1 second of bud-based damage for each rage stack to any enemy that attacks her. This is a tanking function, primarily, right? This is, enemies hit her and take lots of damage when she's on the front line. However, if you're not putting her in the front line, I generally don't. When you're hit with AoE attacks from bosses, still works. Still works. Yeah. And here's the thing. It's for each rage stack. 0.1 for each rage stack. Remember, she gets 50 base. That means it's 5 seconds of bud-based damage, which is right around her actual damage without any modifiers. which means basically they hit her, she hits them back almost as if she were normally hitting them. And this is all of this stuff is going to get better here in a bit. Okay, let's talk about specialization choices. Berserker, Wild Heart, Wild Magic. There is only one choice here for DPS. I will mention the others so you understand her other options. But these really do, you are really choosing how you're going to use her with her specialization. Wild Heart, all of this is based off 20 or more rage stacks. Wild Heart, she starts to heal herself 10% of her max health every second. This is a tanking or survivability feature. Wild Magic, she buffs the Fury of Avernus by 100% for each Ceramorphosis stack. So there's where the tadpole thing can come in. Right? But it's as a support. Be clear. This is, and the people might be like, but you could use this for DPS and then Ceramorphosis and then the tadpoles help. Sure, but she has a better DPS spec. Over here on Berserker, while Karlach has 20 or more rage stacks, she increases her damage by 50% for each rage stack that she has, stacking multiplicatively. Look, the most tadpole stacks you're going to get is 10 in a formation. Okay, she starts off with 50 rage stacks. I'll take 50% to the power of 50 instead of 100% to the power of 10, because I know what's else is going to happen in her kit, because we're going to get more than 50 stacks. It's ridiculous. Okay, so Berserker. We're going Berserker. It's just it's good. It's so good. Because look, she already has one multiplicatively stacking ability in her rage, and then she adds another one with Berserker. Like, why not? Why not? Soul Coin is her ultimate. We're gonna come back to that one because that's the biggie. That's the biggie. An experienced gladiator is her final ability. This is based off Zariel. Her functionality with Zariel. She increases the effect of the Fury of Avernus by 10% for each Zariel patron variant you have completed, stacking multiplicatively. Here's yet another multiplicatively stacking buff. This is for completing Zariel patron variants. If you're newer, you're not going to have any of this, right? And on my new account, when I was playing through, I didn't really have any of them either. She's still wrecked because of those other multiplicatively stacking abilities. So once on this account, I have over 300 good stacks, good boost. Yes, please. All right. That's going to be her. Well, you know, I'm going to go over the other stuff. So damage of all champions, health you need on a tank, right? Fury of Avernus, Rage, Experienced Gladiator. So all of these, all of the things you would want to buff. And then ultimate cooldown. That's actually, as odd as it might sound, this is a big deal. Having this one be as strong as possible, capped, ideally. Because of her ultimate. Her ultimate is her soul coin. She absorbs the energy of a soul coin, increasing her rage cap to 100 stacks. What? The first time I saw this, I was like, what? She's got multiple things that stack off rage stacks. What are they doing? They're making a destructive champion. That's what they're doing. And her Infernal Engine's Bud-based damage is also boosted by 100% until completing the next boss area. Now remember, that's the one that if you get hit, she does the equivalent of one of her hits to whoever hit her. Well, now they're doubling it, which means they're doing the equivalent of basically twice her damage back to someone else. So with her soul coin active, that becomes incredibly destructive as well. But the big deal, because it's Bud-based damage, it's gonna ramp also with the rage stack. So let's throw on. I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to show you what. Keep in mind my numbers are not going to be your numbers because of gear and stuff. Fury of Avernus right now is throwing out E32. We've got Rage at 50 stacks. This is an E8 buff to Fury of Avernus. So E08. Infernal Engine again. There's the 5 seconds of Bud. Berserker E10 boost to her own damage. E10 just from choosing Berserker. I'm suddenly doing E10 more damage. There's no item for this. This is just straight up Berserker's damage. This is why I love this so much. Berserker is so strong. Okay, but now we're going to pop her soul coin. We're going to give her a chance to really Rage up. This now we got the flaming onion going on, as I like to call it. I really don't like this graphic, but I love Karlach. Yeah. So we're gonna let her build up her. She'll ramp up her rage stacks. We can see this right here. Remember, because it's multiplicatively stacking, it's gonna start climbing. Now it is a 25%. All of her items are post-stack bonuses, so she is not what we call. She doesn't have what we call a multiplicatively or mathematically overpowered ability. They are multiplicatively stacking abilities, which are strong abilities, but it's not the most OP ability in the game. The thing is, because she has multiple, she still gets real strong, right? You don't have to have a mathematically OP or MOP ability to be a real strong champion. You just have to have really good scaling, just base, and she does. So we're catching up here. Let's talk about feats while that builds. She's got kind of, she isn't one of the more modern champions, so she has a good assortment. You got damage all champions, you got health. Again, I kind of ignore those. You've got self damage. She has a base damage 400% with a taunt. Look, I'm not putting her in the front line, but you better believe I'm giving her a feat that gives her 400% more damage. Right? Like, yeah. You got Fury of Avernus, you got Rage, obviously, those are nice. We've got Experienced Gladiator, you've got Overwhelm if you're tank. I need to buy all of her feats, I apologize. For some reason I don't have all of her feats. What do I even have in? I had some health, we can get rid of that. I usually have some health in because I want... I do want health share to happen for survivability reasons, for deep pushes. But we're going to go Rage 80-40. Really maximize this Fury of Avernus 80. So now we're going to get the solid multiplicatively stackers with our big buff that everything's feeding into it at 80 as well, and then the 400%. That's actually going to be the better setup for her. But I've kind of had her in a mixed... Done real well. I pushed all the way to 2001 with her. I use her all over the place, and I didn't even really have to maximize her feats like this. Right? Okay, Rage stacks. We went from E08 to E13, getting up to 100 stacks. We're now at an E37 Fury of Avernus, but if we come down here to Berserker, we're now at E19, just from the 100 more stacks of Berserker. She's now up to 20 seconds of Bud. Because of the rage stack. So on top of doubling the effect, we also have twice as many stacks. So you actually get basically almost four times the damage. Ultimately, it will be more than 4 times the damage because of what we're going to do with her attack speed, with how Bud works. So as you can see, Experienced Gladiator have over 300. It's an E18 buff as well. But again, even without this, she's going to be real strong for you. Okay. So this is Karlach. Karlach's just going to destroy here. I don't have anyone else in my party. I don't even have do I have a Modron Corian? I do. You know what? Let's take it out. Just settle back down. But throwing down a lot of damage without anyone else in the formation, right? That's what we're looking for. So. What was I going to do first? Total ADHD brain. I just blanked. Oh, we were going to talk about an absolute adversaries formation. So usually when you're doing an absolute adversaries formation, the big thing that you're trying, the big puzzle you're trying to solve, once you pick your primary DPS, which can be it can be Karlach, it can be Lae'zel, or it could be the Dark Urge. That's usually the 3. There is an edge case scenario where Wyll could be your DPS. But usually once you've chosen your primary DPS, what you're trying to do is build around Wyll. The Blade of Frontiers. Because Wyll has the most complicated buff requirement with a very large payoff. And it's built around Folk Hero. All we're going to talk about here is Folk Hero for Wyll. Wyll increases the damage of all champions that belong to the most represented species, class, and or affiliations. I still forget the hand. In the formation. If there is a tie, all tied groups gain the buff. That's the and champions who are part of several groups can gain multiple stacks of the buff. Stacks. Up to a max of 4. Stacking multiplicatively. Ooh, okay. Low stack count, but they stack multiplicatively. And buffs apply to the pre-stack value. That's the OP way. Right? So this buff, the bigger you make this buff, if people can get up to 4 stacks, it's this value times itself up to 4 times, which creates one of the biggest, if not now. I'm just going to say it's one of the top 5 buffs in the game, support buffs in the game. Because we've got some new champions in the game that got some beefy stuff. One of the top 5 support buffs in the game. So people like to build around Folk Hero. And again, because of the way this works, Wyll can technically build himself around it and become a DPS. He's not. He's a support. But it can be a very big buff. Here's the thing. These are a lot of hoops to jump through. Species, class, affiliation. You have to make your primary DPS fit into all 3 of these. Just to get 3 buffs. Okay? Karlach. Species, Tiefling, class, Barbarian, Affiliation, Absolute Adversaries. She can get 3. Well, how do you get 4? Multi-class champions. Or champions who have a glitch feat that adds a species. Or champions that have multiple affiliations. Okay? So, yeah. So Karlach off the bat, base, can only get 3. There's a way to get her 4. It's Wyll's dad. Say hello to Wyll's dad, everybody. This is Duke Ravengard. Duke Ravengard has a specialization choice called Legacy of Ravengard. If Wyll is in the formation, anyone affected by Wyll's Folk Hero benefit gains an additional stack, but the maximum remains at 4. So you use Karlach, Wyll, and Duke Ravengard to enable the chance, if you have the right champions, to get Karlach to 4 stacks. Because if you're going to use Wyll, you should be trying to get 4 stacks. You should be trying. Doesn't mean you're gonna. A 3-stack Karlach is still pretty strong. But if you're using Wyll as a support and your DPS only has 1 stack, Wyll's probably not your best support in that scenario. And this is where building an Absolute Adversaries formation, like using all of them, works against you, because sure, your Absolute Adversaries gain to have the affiliation, but species and class gets all messed up. Can get all messed up, right? So, yeah. So to do this, if you are going to use Karlach with members of the Absolute Adversaries, you have to keep in mind that Karlach needs to be the most represented species and most represented class. You cannot outnumber Tieflings and you cannot outnumber Barbarians, right? And that's a problem, because we've got a fighter. Wyll is a fighter. Wyll is a warlock. Gale's a wizard. So all of this is kind of being somewhat equal. And then we got a rogue, so everything's kind of staying equal. But he's a fighter, so suddenly with Duke Ravengard to get the thing, now we're outnumbered. Now I've got to add a barbarian somewhere. Well, there aren't any more that are from the Absolute Adversaries, right? And if you put the Dark Urge in, he shouldn't be in a Karlach DPS formation, because he's a pure support, or he's a pure DPS. He can't help. So chuck him out the window. We can't really bring Jaheira in, who has, like, if you're trying to build around tadpoles, because she's fighter. That just makes this combination stronger. We got a ranger, that doesn't help her with the barbarian. That cleric doesn't help her. Wizard screws it up with, So you see, like, you start trying to build around Baldur's Gate and Absolute Adversaries, you can't do it. You have to find, at least to start, you're going to have to find another barbarian, and you're going to have to find another tiefling, because, or maybe multiple, depending on how many you're using. Here's human, here's human, here's a human. Oh, shoot! Now I've got to find two. If I'm using Gale with in this formation, now I've got to find 2 more tieflings and a barbarian just to start. You start restricting your options, right, for buffing by a lot when you're using Wyll. So can you do it? Yes, I've built a Wyll formation, like a Karlach formation with Wyll. I don't feel like it's her optimal situation. So this is as far as I'm going to go into explaining Karlach with Wyll. Just to understand, it takes a deep bench. It takes very specific champions. There is an easier way to make her destroy things. So we're going to remove Wyll. And we're going to talk about what, for me, is the most destructive setup currently for any melee DPS. But I use it, and I kind of built it around this concept of Karlach and these other 2 champions. I call it the Holy Trinity. Because you just need 3 champions to unlock destructive melee damage. And it is built around Duke Ravengard and Strongheart. Okay. This combination, it can be Duke Ravengard, Strongheart, and technically any melee DPS, but this is what I use to power my Karlach, because it feeds in everything that she wants. Duke Ravengard, if we look at his other specialization choices, well, we'll get to that second. Hold on. Talk about Duke Ravengard real quick. Duke Ravengard's Marshal of the Flaming Fist. He basically buffs melee base attack champions. The number of melee champions in the formation stacks multiplicatively with a buff. I want to be clear, I don't build all melee in this formation, but I am building around melee, so this comes into play. Critical teamwork is the big one. Whenever a champion with a melee base attack gets a crit, increase the effect of Marshal of the Flaming Fist, and additively increase the odds of all champions in the formation getting crits by 1%. Both of these stack up to 50 times. Okay. That means you can add 50% crit chance to every champion in the formation. Yes, please. Right? On a single area, right? But like right now, Karlach, 62.5%. For reasons. I actually am building up 60% because he's got a feat. He's got a feat for that. And of course I'm using that. Where's it? Right here. Increase the max stacks of Duke Ravengard's critical teamwork by 10%. So she's getting 60%. So 2 out of 3 hits, roughly. She's critting. He's critting 80% of the time currently. And Strongheart's currently at 85% crit. So it's this crit share that really triggers this interaction, this synergy between Duke Ravengard and Strongheart. Now, Duke Ravengard's got a lot of other features. They're nice. But really, I'm building this around the crit chance, right? So what we're looking for here is Strength of Baldur's Gate in the middle. Champions with a melee base attack have their crit chance additively increased by 20%. There's another 20% for free. And their crit damage increased by 1,000%. Remember, they crit, they do more damage. Well, with the amount of crit chance we're giving them, they're critting all the time, so they're getting a lot more damage. This is what I go with, right? So we're just going to max him out. So now he's at 100% crit chance, so he's always critting and always building those numbers. And his crit damage is 5,500%. She's now at 82.5%, 5,500% crit damage. So this is, I mean, 8 out of 10 hits. She's critting. 4 out of 5. She's going to be critting, right? Strongheart now over 100. I've got him tweaked a little too high. He's at over 100% crit chance. Here's where the synergy comes in. So Strongheart buffs all adjacent champions, which is why you want to put her next to your DPS. He also heals all adjacent champions. That's nice. But Righteous Might is his big ability. Whenever he lands a crit hit, for the next 20 seconds, he increases the damage of his main buff by an amount. And you can see this is not a normal, this isn't like 100%, which means this is buffed by an item. Which means, are we multiplicatively stacking this? Yes, because he says, whenever he lands a crit, you get 20 seconds of buff. If he's critting on every hit, which he is, and he's attacking about once a second, you can hit 17 to 18 stacks of this buffing himself, of this buffing everyone around him. And his healing goes up too. But he also reduces attack speed of himself and champions affected by his buff. How fast is she attacking now? 1.5 seconds. She's attacking now every 1.5 seconds. Down from 5.5, folks. Now, we see this varying. The reason it's varying is because everything's dying so quickly. When you're somewhere where you're not killing enemies in one hit, everybody stays at their max because everything is critting, and there's not enough time for things to fall off. Okay. So this is wild. Like this combination becomes wild. I tend to, there's some options here. If you're trying to boost an affiliation, you can do this one. Like if you've got a lot of those affiliation members in there, you got to do the math with Strongheart. Yeah, I tend to either do Valor's Call or Honorary Member. I'm just going to do Valor's Call here, even though it doesn't have a huge number, just because I know what I usually end up with in my formations. That's really what you're looking for with this combination, though, is you're feeding this critical hit synergy in to then boost her. And because she wants to build rage stacks, and she's building it on either getting hit or attacking, and where I place her, she's not getting hit, then having her attack very quickly means I ramp up damage very quickly. And we get to her max stacks, and everybody, it's a snowball effect, because the faster they attack, the more crits they're adding up, which means then the more often they're critting, the faster they're attacking, and it's just this nice feedback loop. Okay. That's really it, folks. This is the Holy Trinity. This is just lots and lots of damage. We're up to just the 3 of these together right now are throwing down, for me on my account, E253 damage. I haven't even filled out the rest of the formation yet. On my new player account, a full formation of a mix of blues and purples, like champions with blues and purples. I was into the mid game, breaking E300 with only like average item level 50 on champions. Like I think my Briv had I think average item level 150 or something, but as he's not even important as the buffer in this scenario. So low average item levels, high damage. That was enough damage for me to like those formations. Pushed me through like tier 6 in trials. Probably could have continued doing tier 7, boosting more people up to average item level 50. That wasn't even my entire formation average item level 50. These 3 can, if you pick them up early, can carry you technically through the game anywhere they're allowed to go, right? With very low investment in item levels. And again, my Karlach on my new player account had blues and a purple. My Duke Ravengard got lucky. He was full purple. But I think Strongheart might have been a mix. I don't know. The gear just makes this combination better. It isn't required. And that's what I like. That's what I like for champions who like for new players, people pushing through the early game, mid game. You don't necessarily have the best gear. It's not necessarily optimal for you to stop and try to just focus on getting someone to full epic or dump hundreds or 1,000 item levels into someone in the early, definitely not going to have it in the early game, but in the mid game, that's not an optimal play style. It just isn't. You can just keep progressing and be doing just fine. And with things like this, you don't have to like dump 1,000 item levels into somebody and then hundreds into their support champions. That's a late game and in game thing. Right? Remember I was talking about you want to enhance strengths and minimize weaknesses, right? So Karlach's strength is she builds up these stacks on hits, right? And so by using this formation, we maximize her strength. She can build up her stacks super fast. Oh, the teddy bear. Do tons of damage. That's what we want, right? Ways to minimize her weaknesses. Her weaknesses, she's a single hit champion. Over here in slot 1, seat 1, I tend to alternate between 3 support champions when I'm running Karlach, and it depends on what she needs for the given adventure. You can absolutely use Gale. I tend to only bring Gale in if I need if I'm in like a 3 tank frontline. I know you're like, wait, Gale? Gale has a specialization that basically makes it so that he hand waves people away from him and is a nega tank where he can exist in the front line and buff behind him. And enemies that try to attack him just move away from him and go to another tank in the front line. So in a 3 tank front line, he effectively turns it into a 2 tank front line with a big buff and a debuff, right? So I'll use him sometimes with a 3 tank front line. If I need a lot of healing, I go with Orkira. Orkira has a lot of healing for your party, and also a really strong debuff. Again, nega tank, strong debuff. Lots of healing, strong debuff. Esmeralda is where I go most of the time, and I'm going to throw her in here. Esmeralda, strong debuff, but under We've Trained for this, all champions deal more damage against enemies with armor-based health, increasing their chance of breaking an armor piece, and additionally, if a hit-based or armored enemy is affected by training montage, which is the debuff, successful hits against them remove an additional hit or armor piece. So effectively with this, we're making it easier for Karlach to break armor, and also helping her chew through hit-based things like segmented health enemies quicker. That's one of her weaknesses. She one hit per swing, even attacking quick, takes her a while to get through an armored enemy that might have 50 segments, right? So instead of 50 hits to get through it, now 25. Right? So that's a boost. I like it. Her debuff, comparable. If you have comparable gear between those 3, they all end up, fairly equal. And again, if I want her functionality, if I'm dealing with armored enemies, I'm gonna run Esmeralda. I do actually like Lae'zel as a support for Karlach. She's a magic-based attack, so she's not feeding into this Duke Ravengard stuff, but Lae'zel is, right? And usually with Lae'zel, I'm going Battle Master. I know you might be like, well, but crit chance, but this is her damage spec. If she's going to be TPS, this is kind of a good support spec for her. Because when she hits an enemy and they survive, which is going to happen when she's not the DPS, anybody else that whoever hits them right after her deals 4 seconds of Bud-based damage. This helps you get another way to help you get through armored enemies. Anybody's getting extra chunk removal with this, right? So that's what I like to go with. So I'm just going to build out with kind of what usually looks like my formation, roughly. Now there are going to be times where Lae'zel might be your primary DPS. If Karlach is not ramped up fully, Lae'zel might be the one who's setting your Bud. Totally fine. It's okay if you're not to your wall yet and someone else other than your primary DPS is setting the damage, setting your Bud. As long as your primary DPS is someone who ramps up as more enemies start to build up, right? Which is how Karlach works. She will overtake. I tend to stay away from Shadowheart. Because of the dex, because her thing is based off like where does her duplicate go, right? And it's going to be and you have to place her in coordination with it, and ideally you end up like, this might work here, where you have to get her Shadowheart and her duplicate into a certain situation. I just don't. What I tend to do is I'll tend to go Briv for the tanky. Now, if you have other survivable tanks you want to use, or if it's a single take frontline and you want to use like a Valentine to boost some of these buffs, sure. You know, who's gonna work out better for you. I tend to just want a beefy tank up front because I'm trying to push to like 2001, like all the way to the, basically that's the hard cap on areas. You can get to 2001, you can't get past it. On a double tank frontline, I might go Ayla. Right, Ayla is another super beefy survivable tank that can help you. If it isn't a double tank frontline, I go Birdsong. Birdsong is bird strong. She can be she can have her own meta video. She is a DPS and a support. She's a super strong in both roles. She fits very well into this because melee, right? And we've got Duke, so she fits into this idea of building around mostly melee champions. If we're using Astarion, I want to move my Karlach so that they match like top or bottom of a column. Karlach Astarion is an actual great support for this, and you're going to get a couple tadpoles here, not a lot. Again, we're not trying to build huge tadpole numbers with this formation. We don't need it. We're building lots of damage in other ways. Over here, I'm usually throwing like Caddy Bree out. Now I know she's not melee, but she does have the ability to, and we're buffing crit chance ridiculously, but she does have the ability to share with her ultimate her crit chance on whatever her ultimate hits. She is the queen of crit chance. Like as you see here, I've got over 2,000% crit chance. So she shares that with the party. Yeah, they might have already been at 100% crit, but when you over crit, you get multipliers on your damage alongside the crit damage. So she can create even more damage in a party that we already know is critting almost every time, right? I enjoy that. And then a lot of times, depending on what I need here, I can throw like a BBG in. He buffs int 12 and lower, and Karlach is lower than int 12. We could, you could throw an Omen in if you got a really strong Omen. I love Grama if we need more survivability, or if we want to try to put her as a tank up front, you can. You've got options. There's options in other seats. In 6, if we want a tank, we can use like an Evelyn. Again, you can make the Shadowheart work. Nothing wrong with Shadowheart. It's just not where I go. What I tend to do is I tend to come over here and I tend to Miria. If I'm not going to use Ayla, I will have Miria as a tank. This ends up giving a really strong boost and really beefy survivability in game because Miria is a hit-based tank functionally. You can't one-shot her with damage. If you kill her health pool, a clone takes her place. She has a lot of clones if you're pushing really deep, so it takes a while to get through all of her health. And even if Briv falls over, she can still be standing there tanking, right? Yeah, we would swatch this around because of the way. Again, understand how your buffs work, folks. This may not be in the perfect position. You gotta know she can buff. She does anywhere. She has to be behind. He doesn't care. He needs to be adjacent. She needs to be within 2, I believe. He wants to be in the same spot. She wants to be next to the DPS. Briv just needs to be in front. And Lae'zel just needs to be in the same column. Yeah. So more often than not, if I'm in a more often than not, honestly, this is what the formation is, but moved around to fit whatever layout is going on. Oh, this is Caddy Bree. Folks, I should put her here. This is Caddy Bree. I just use Caddy Bree in her dwarf skin because I love dwarves. So yeah, more often than not, this is kind of what my formation looks like. It doesn't have to be what your formation looks like. Again, it isn't what mine looked like on a new player account, and I still really, it's about the Holy Trinity. It's about Duke, Ravengard, Strongheart, and in this situation, Karlach. So for me, running her as my primary DPS everywhere I can, this is what I want. This is kind of what I want. Do I have other options if I need them? Absolutely. Because it isn't about, well, if I can't get these 10, right? It isn't about that at all. It's about finding the best combinations I have available at any time to maximize my DPS's strengths and minimize their weaknesses, right? Yeah. Shout out to this kind of Holy Trinity is now, I used to just refer to it as Duke, Strongheart, and Karlach. Because when Duke was released, Karlach was already out. Duke was coming out. We saw the preview, and I was like, "Oh no, he and Strongheart are going to be best friends." And if I pair them with Karlach, this is going to get ridiculous. And that's what I did, and it was, and it has been ever since. But now we just got in this most recent High Harvest Tide, we got 2 more melee DPS champions. We got Bobby is brand new, and we got Rosie as a rework. And what does Rosie do? She has tons of crit damage. Caddy Bree is the queen of crit chance. Rosie is the queen of crit damage. Rosie also both Bobby and Rosie have a wonderful place in a Holy Trinity formation alongside Duke and Strongheart. So you can take this kind of concept and put it into just about any melee DPS. I use this for Karlach, and the key is making sure Karlach is not in the front tanking. Can you put her up front and have her tank to a certain point? She is not as tanky as I would like her to be. I feel like their Ceramorphosis, they were almost in the right place with Ceramorphosis. Ceramorphosis boosts the health of other champions by 25% of her max health plus 2% for each Ceramorphosis stack. I feel like she needed a health share ability, and they made it Ceramorphosis. Because all tanks have a health share ability. I feel like Ceramorphosis should have boosted her health, though, based off Ceramorphosis stacks, and she should have had a separate health share ability. This would have made her, like, you put a full absolute adversary, or you put a full tadpole formation with her as a tank. She gets real beefy and strong and can handle a lot of hits. And she shares a lot with everybody else, but in the current situation, she doesn't get stronger with stacks. This is her big kind of flaw in her kit in regards to building her with the absolute adversaries. It doesn't make her better at everything. It makes everyone else more survivable. Doesn't make her more survivable, so she can't really tank as well as I would like at the higher areas. And when I say higher areas, I mean it can be near your wall, but for me, she starts falling off in like the 1700s. It can just fall over. Despite, like, if I try to put her in tank spec and self heal, it doesn't help. Doesn't help, fortunately. It feels like it should mathematically, but it doesn't. It doesn't. All right, folks, that's going to be it. We've got 9 questions saved up. Hopefully we got more than that are going to come out during the second half. We're going to take a short musical break, come back, and dive into questions. Remember, you got to put question : in front of your question, or else it doesn't get added to the sheet. If you've asked questions during this show and you didn't put question : in it, but you want answers from me, re-ask them with question : in front. We will be right back. What song are we going at? We don't have a song. There's no song for Karlach. What song did I do not remember. Hold on. Shocked. Sean, this song's for you, buddy. A little bittersweet. Once upon a time, Sean had another show on this channel that he was part of with his best friend Lee. It was called Griddle Champions. This is the song for Griddle Champions. It's called Champions of the Griddle. Enjoy.
There's no time for waffling. These here to draw and flip. Batter and eyes ready to go to line and fill and drip. News of blogs and updates. Sean has tea to spill. New heroes and special buffs and tales to fit the bill. Trading bars as we watch it bubble. If the heat's too high, we'll be in trouble. They're the champions of the griddle, but you can't taste even a little. You're just watching long and the middle turn out awesome. They're the champions of the griddle. They make God with scissors, and as the song ends, never forget their best friends. Champions of the griddle.
Hey. I missed that. We got to do the throwbacks every now and then, folks. We got to do the throwbacks to the other shows from the channel. With the theme song. If you're in chat and you're going, what? What is griddle? What? Why is he talking about pancakes? Why is there a flip it emote? Our friend Lee Goldberg is a pancake artist, which doesn't mean he makes delicious pancakes. He does. I'm sure. I haven't had them, but I mean, hey, look, he's a chef. He can make delicious pancakes. He makes pancake art. Literally, he turns pancakes into art with different colored batter, and it's amazing. It's amazing. He's amazing. We love Lee. And they used to do that for Idle Champions. We used to have a show every week where they made pancakes live with the art, and you'd flip it over and see, like, he draws it with the batter and you can't really tell. You're like, what the heck is this? But then he flips it over and you're like, oh! It was great. It was great. Are those on the YouTube? I don't even remember. I don't remember. Those are good shows. All right, let's go into, we're going to hit up the stuff that's on topic first, and then I'll get into whatever's off topic stuff. Cal Gaten started the show off with Chibi Karlach win. Yeah, I would love a Chibi skin for Karlach would be great. Right now, I'm a little disappointed because she's got one other skin. Well, two other skins. We got regular. This is regular. There's a casual, which is her camp clothes, and then there's a mind flayer skin. And I don't need to see her as a mind flayer. Casual clothes is fine, but I should just do random. There's Chibi one would be great. Chibi one would be great. Nave Sensei, is there a way to get Karlach other than a time gate or paying? I mean, those are the two big ways. You can wait for her event to come back around. But otherwise, time gate or cash shop, right? If you don't own champions, they're going to show up over here. I tend to tell people to try to look for a pack, like if they're gonna be in a pack in the shop, like that's a skin pack. That tends to, you get the champion, you get the skin, and you get whatever else in there. Who knows? Maybe they'll do a Chibi Karlach skin soon, and people can pick her up that way. MTL Shaker for the int-based trials, to use Dungeon Master to pull her in? No, I just use a different champion. Look, just because she's my main, doesn't mean I just try to bend time and space to get her in everywhere. I have every champion in the game. I'll just build a different formation. Like, She is just, if you know, all things being equal, I'm going to build a formation with Karlach in it. That's what I do. But that doesn't mean that's all I can do. F. Buxel? I'm gonna go with that. Would another Fury feat not be much more damage than the tiny 400%? Tiny? Which equates to E1. Tiny? So Fury of Avernus 604 E28. I mean, you can do what you want. You got to remember, Fury of Avernus is only one thing feeding into her damage. And yes, we like boosting it, right? We like to maximize her main buff. But remember, Fury of Avernus isn't multiplicatively stacking, so it's not a straight up great target. Whereas that 400% boost to her damage, after you take everything that's boosting her kit into account, it's then applying a 5x multiplier to it. Then that includes like her rage and her berserk. Like, well, her rage feeds into Fury of Avernus, but includes her berserker, which is another stacking effect. It's gonna, yeah. I don't know. I mean, we play around with what you got. If you like it better, again, like I like rage because of the multiplicatively stat, because it gets to be a big number. I don't know that I need to go this hard on it. You like the bigger numbers, usually 80%. This one could probably swap it with something else. I had like 60% damage because rage isn't, the rage value isn't multiplicatively stacking. It isn't a pre-stack multiplier. Here's the thing. If any of these were pre-stack multipliers, you would focus on those feats, because it would be buffing the pre-multiplied value. None of them are, so there's a variety of ways you could go about this with whatever numbers are going to show up the best. But I like, yeah, this 400%. Look, this is pretty straightforward math because they're all pretty flat multipliers. They're not pre-stack multipliers, so the bigger numbers are usually the better numbers. Because these are applying all as their own separate multipliers, right? What are some recommended TG Nubis? What are some recommended filler champions? I think we just did that. I mean, that's kind of what we talked about. Again, it's whatever you have the strongest formation of. I've seen a couple questions here about should you use Wolfgar for his crit bonus. Can you? Yes. Here's Wolfgar. I like, again, Astarion has a real big buff. And I like big buffs, and I cannot lie. Wolfgar can increase all champions' crit hit chances by 10. But again, the important ones are like Duke Ravengard's going to be at 100. Strongheart's going to be at 100. Strongheart is the one that needs to be at 100 or better, period. Okay? He has to be, like, that's what really feeds his righteous might, keeping it stacked. Everyone else, it's great if they, like, the higher having a high number is better. But look, she's going to get up into the 80s without Wolfgar. I'm okay with that. Would I love it if they gave her some, maybe if they gave her a crit? I think I would actually prefer a crit damage feat for her than crit chance, but they could give her both. Sure. But she isn't really built around critting. Her kit doesn't need her to crit. What we're really trying to do with her is speed her up so she's attacking as quickly as possible. The crit chance from Ravengard is what feeds Strongheart. He's the one that wants to crit. And then we're just enjoying the fact that she is getting crit damage with, 5,500% crit damage with Duke Ravengard's thing and a high crit chance. We don't necessarily need to maximize it here. You can, if you want. I think where you might look into that more, like a Wolfgar and that 10% crit chance. Well, no, you can't. Dang it, same slot. I was gonna say with Rosie, but yeah, you can't. So somebody else who wants crits, I mean, Wolfgar is definitely a tank option. If you don't have a Starion and you needed another tank up front with Karlach, yeah, throw it in. I'm sure I've used that before. I'm sure I'll use it again. No reason not to. But if I already have a couple tanks up here, and I do, then I'm going to go with Starion. Starion, it just has a hold on. Let me just demonstrate here. My Starion feels pretty ridiculous. So you would go Arcane Trickster for this, for damage. If you were doing gold find, you do with the generational weld. You lean into generational weld. Or if you were doing like a deep push for gold or for favor. Outflank, we get an E16. We get the Ceramorphosis buffing it. Generational wealth is just the thing. Well-fed has to stack up though. Well-fed stacks multiplicatively 5 times, and this is a pre-stack multiplier. He has a mathematically OP ability. So on the same area, we'll turn off progress. We'll go back a level. You park a familiar on his ultimate, and you build up his well-fed stacks. So you get to 5, and it blows up his outflank. So like we're already at E18, so it's already got just 1 stack. Now it's got 2 stacks. So once he gets up there, it's a much better buff. Now again, I'm just looking to try, when I'm trying to push, I'm trying to find some combination of survivability and damage. For me, I like this. Does it mean it's always the best? Not necessarily. Again, I have a lot of different people I can slot in and try out, and depending on the formation layout, maybe somebody else will be better. Ultimately, at the end of the day, unless I'm trying to get to 2001, at the end of the day, getting the most damage doesn't really matter. Completing the goal for your variant, the adventure or variant you're in, is what matters. And as long as you reach that, whether your formation was the most optimal it could be or not, is irrelevant. I think more people need to really sit with that. It doesn't have to be the most optimal thing. And again, I can get to 2001 with this formation, so I can get to the current area cap. So having anything above that, it doesn't really matter. So here I'm at E26. For me, this is fine. I'm getting an E26 buffer out of a Starion. If I were to go to if I were to go to Wolfgar, and I were to take the crit chance, I did not. Come on, Wolfgar. We'll take a look at what he would look like in this scenario. He's got Plangeddon's Wyll. That's his buff. It does stack multiplicatively. We'd have to wait. We're gonna have to wait a bit for that one to stack up. So he has a ramping buff on the same area. We don't have any Mithril Hall stacks here. We would get we can't pass out Smash and Grab, but that's a decent amount more. We've boosted the crit chance, sure. But really what it's going to come down to is what does this look like when it's maxed? Is it going to be comparable to Starions on the way to getting to that crit chance? I don't know. I also don't know if I have. Oh, yeah, he's got good item levels, so I don't hate it. We're just gonna have to wait a bit here. So he's an option. I just don't necessarily use him unless I'm looking for a tank option in that slot. The inbox, JJ. I got Karlach for free, so she's stuck in blues and greens. Well, so first off, she doesn't have to stay in greens. As long as you keep open an Electrum chest, she will eventually get her way all the way up to blues. And I got her for free on my new account too. I think I got a lucky epic out of a patron chest for her. So what is the most efficient way to epic her up? Again, you don't have to worry about that. Getting her to blues, she's gonna be a beast. You getting her to blues and then throw in an average item level of 50 on her, she's gonna be real strong. That's how I used her. And again, with that. All three of them, her, Strongheart, and Duke Ravenguard, I just had average item level 50 in blues or better, and they were doing a lot of damage. The best way to get any champion up to epic is you just have to get to the point in the game. You don't have to worry about that in the early game or even the beginning of the mid game, but late mid game into the late game, you're really focused on getting your event champions full epic. Especially because it really strongly in the mid game because of trials. You want to be able to put legendary gear on them, or legendary effects on them, I should say. But it just comes from opening patron chests, right? But your priority with your patrons is each week is buying a time gate piece and a Modron component chest. So there goes 7,500 currency. Whatever you have left over, pump into patron chests and open them. Once you have your core and evergreens fully epicked, then it makes sense to start opening up lots of patron chests whenever you can. Doesn't mean stopping and grinding for it. Yeah. And until you have, most of the champions you want, you don't have to have all the champions, but most of the champions that you want to and that are going to help you do like your trials every week and the patron stuff you're doing, using a time gate for gear is questionable, right? Questionable. Baxit, would it make sense to put Lae'zel down one and put Strongheart in the middle? I mean, if you want, the key here is like I don't know. I mean, what are you speeding up? You're buffing more people, but that doesn't matter because all you care about buffing is Karlach. So you'd be speeding up the attack speed of more people. Well, who needs the attack speed is what you want to think about. And honestly, it's more important to have Caddy Bree next to that because she has a on-hit debuff. Birdsong. Lae'zel is okay. We're next to Karlach. Maybe. I don't know, maybe. You kind of also want it for Esmeralda too, though, but you're giving up. You don't care about Miria having it, and I'm not worried about taunting with Briv, so I don't know that it matters. But you build yours however you want. Craig Davidson, what are your thoughts? Well, let me get to that later. Hold on. Do you have any more around Karlach? Craig Davidson, would Desmond's buff to attack cooldown work well in this? She's pretty much once you get it to a place where the enemies aren't dying instantly like this, and Strongheart is attacking on basically animation cooldown. I don't know that you need to buff it any more than that. She gets down to 1.5 second attack speed, and that's good enough. Okay, so it's an E20. So Clangeddon's Wyll for me is E20. Within reach. I'm actually impressed. Within reach of Astarians. Well, we're like EO6 off. You're getting a 10% crit chance. That means he's definitely a potential swap. I don't know that I would go out of my way to do it. Like he wouldn't replace Astarion for me. I would still prefer Astarion. But it's fine. You can do that. I will keep that in mind for when I need 3 tanks instead of using Gale. I might try that out. Okay, let me go back and do general questions. Me West, is there an up-to-date source for in-game information? Like base attack damage of champions. Really like the mathy nature of the game and would like to understand some interactions better. I don't know. If there is, it's a fan site. I think the thing that's gonna like up to date, I don't use them for that kind of information, so I don't really use a lot of the fan sites. I don't have base attack in my guides either, because you can only get that by opening up the game files. There's no real way to get it reliably other than that, because of stuff and things. What I see over here at level 1 isn't necessarily the right number. So yeah, I don't know. Your best bet is to find fan sites that keep their stuff up to date, and basically hack the game files and put that data in from there. Charlations, in a time gate, does doing the free play after you finish the 2 challenge runs not get you the character's gold chests? No, that's not what time gates are for. That isn't how anything works anymore. Events don't even work that way anymore. But no, in a time gate, you can get 3 gold chests. You get 1 for each of the 2 base adventures that have area goals associated with them, and then 1 for the variant. That's what it is. It's 2 adventures and a variant. Free plays exist for you if you want to get more favor because the variant is difficult and you didn't get enough in the first 2 adventures, or if you're trying to get just more favor in general, or if you're trying to push deep and get lots of silver chests. But now a time gate gets you at most 3 gold chests. Currently. We don't know if that's ever going to change, but you got to exist in the current state of the game. Calgaden, for newer players who maybe only started this event, could Bobby or Rosie fit in these formations? Well, if you've only started in this event, you don't have all these champions. You have none of them. But in talks of like the Holy Trinity, yes, Bobby and Rosie both fit in the Holy Trinity. Rosie is the better fit. Yeah. Crack Davis, what are your thoughts on Holy Trinity plus Mithril Hall stack crew? So Companions of the Hall plus Plent. And Karlach versus Dritz is DPS. Well, Karlach mops the floor with Dritz. Sorry, Dritz. They did you dirty in this game. Dritz is in a much better place now. Can you run Holy Trinity with Dritz? Sure. Because Dritz is in 9 and the Holy Trinity is 8 and 11, right? The other 2 members. So you absolutely can do it. And you can run a Companions of the Hall formation using the Holy Trinity, and you can make Dritz even stronger than he is. He's in a much better place than he's been in the past, but Karlach's gonna destroy him. Charlations, do you think y'all could extend the event for a few hours because of the server crash? I am not an employee, like a full-time employee of Codename Entertainment. I can't do anything. I also highly doubt that's a thing that they could do even on their end. The timing is timing, and they give you 3 weeks for an event, so I doubt it. Feel I won't be able to finish my last Flex Champion? So I don't know how far you're going. But remember, with multi-tier, you only have to do 3 runs. Each variant only has to be done once. You can push in one variant far enough to complete the other versions of it. And you've got until Wednesday, the 25th, at noon, Pacifically speaking. So there's 2, 3, about 4 more days you've got to work on it. So even if you've got one last Flex Champion, even if it takes you a day to do each variant, you got the time. You should have that time. Yeah. So multi-tier makes this so much easier. And multi-tier is not going to be an augment anymore. It's right here at the top. Leading event variant in a high enough area will award multiple tiers of progress. That's now going to be, going forward, that's just going to be a base function of events. It won't show up as an augment because it's just going to be there. Just going to be there. But yeah, I don't even know that they have that ability, to be honest, to extend an event. Crash King, should Penelope's storytime ability build while in a background party? Look, in general, I'm going to tell you my general rule of dealing with things in the background in Idle Champion. Assume no. Assume no. In terms of does it. Now you said should it. Should it? Yes. Because every ability that builds up should work in the background. Should. But does it? Assume no. Assume no. If it does, in the cases when those things do happen, what you have to remember is that it's building stacks based off estimates in a simulation. This is not an actual formation in the background doing actual things. It is a simulation. They are simulating what could be happening as it's jumping areas, not going area to area to area, enemy to enemy to enemy. It's jumping in a simulation. So the numbers are always wonky. Always wonky. Always going to be less than what, well, not always. Most, generally speaking, it's going to be less. There are some situations where I think it's broken, delivering far more stacks for some champions. And they need to fix that because it's ridiculous. But yeah. If you're going to build up story time, active party, building up anything active party is the best place. Stout Crusher, what are the 4 needed feats for Strongheart? Oh, man, I don't even have them in. Right now I have the event token scavenger because I like event tokens. Here's the thing. Again, whenever you have an ability on a champion that has that multiplicatively stacks and the bonuses are pre-stack multipliers, affect the pre-stack multiplier, you want that feat. So Righteous Might, guaranteed. Guaranteed you want Righteous Might. There we go. But beyond that, it's just kind of whatever I'm feeling at the moment. I leave him with the event token thing in because unless I'm like really unless I run out of damage and I need more damage. Because I want event tokens. I want to keep him capped on his event tokens. But I run Righteous Might. I have this. I do his specializations for some reason. I don't know. Sometimes I do these crit chances. I've never really... Yeah, I haven't messed around with any of these. Still haven't bought all the feats yet, obviously. Now that Eliwick's in the game, I probably will. I probably will. Yeah, I don't know. Like, the main one is Righteous Might. You don't even need this one, because even without it, I'm at 100% crit chance. Right. If for some reason your crit chance is lower than 100%, like you're doing some other setup, then you would want his crit stuff. You'd want his crit stuff, but technically, like this is the main one, and then it's whatever the best ones you have. Yeah. He has some neat stuff, like when he crits, he stuns them, and I mean, you know, there's situations where these things might come into play depending on who you're using them with, but. The key one is always that when you're dealing with something like Righteous Might, where it's a mathematically overpowered ability, if it's got a feat, you throw that feat in. And then you cross your fingers and you hope they add more feats for that ability, because that's the big one. That's the one you absolutely want. Nave Sensei, when I see all these numbers now, I feel like Rosie with the crit feels better than Karlach. Oh, and a Holy Trinity, she's strong, yeah. Rosie came out, her rework came out real good, folks. She's over here in 10 as well. Her thing is she's the queen of crit damage. Her crit damage numbers can go through the roof. Here we're just picking the largest number. And over here you want slower decay. I know she's got other things. And it's all cool and all. Like if you wanna try to stack timeless body stacks, you're going grandma bot. But slower decay isn't just about her decay. It boosts her crit damage, like depending on your gear by a lot. So when we get her level up here, right now I'm at an E09 crit damage, and I haven't even over leveled her yet. Obviously, I run the crit damage feats for her. I max out her stacks of deflect missiles currently. Sassy is big for her. This isn't necessarily the optimal setup, but you really want these crit damage feats. Because for her, you want to get her critting. You want her just absolutely destroying stuff. Again, I think 4 out of 5 chances is enough. Because she's also slowing down your bud decay. But like her Sassy's is sitting at E47 with only 8 stacks. Pretty good. Not maximized. It's pretty good. Timeless Body, I've got up to EO7. It's fine. Shadow Arts. Yeah. This is the one we want to boost. Currently at cap, at her upgrade cap, she has 10 stacks. But this is what boosts her crit damage. So if we uncap her, I'm just going to take her. She stops at 1090. I'm going to take her to 1100. I'm going to put this at 100. Now we're up to 347 EO9, right? I'm going to see how far I can overlevel. Okay, I got up to 17 stacks. We're now up to E11. I haven't even gone deep with this formation to get her. As long as you could keep over leveling at every 100 levels, she's going to get another stack of Shadow Arts. And it's going to boost your crit damage again. And on like my first test with her when she got reworked, I had her E15 crit damage. It's ridiculous. Her crit damage is ridiculous. So yeah, depending on, sometimes you might want to try to max out her crit chance, but honestly, like if she's in a formation with Caddy Bree, just when Caddy Bree fires off her, you really only want it on a boss that you can't kill. And when Caddy Bree fires off her ult, that boss is going to be tagged, and she's going to get Caddy Bree's crit chance for 30 seconds. Yeah, like this. Boom, and then we're just destroying, and then suddenly she's not even the DPS position, but she would lay in and just lay on hands in the destructive way. So she's a bit of a beast. Absolutely. What do we got? We were in the 428s. We swap around. What does she start throwing hands at? Let's see. We'll see what happens. Also, keep in mind I don't have a Modron core in. Oh, and I should have mentioned Modron cores. Karlach's favorite Modron core is the strong core, folks. That should make sense to you. I'll be honest though, most of the time I'm just using my fast core with her. I don't know. She's still not throwing down harder than Karlach did, but we're also not somewhere where we're building up stacks appropriately either, so we would need to sit down and pause on it here. Holy Trinity sped up with Virgil, Wyll, and Alindra. Look, if you're okay, I need to clear again. Let me make something clear. There is no way to go faster in terms of attack speed than whatever the base animation speed of a champion is. And that's in the ones. So for some, it's below like some it's like 0.8, but every champion has a different animation speed. There's a point where you're in the when she gets down to 1.5, and I know this formation can do that. When she gets down to the 1.5 range, speeding her up beyond that doesn't really matter. It's going to slightly increase your bud. Very slightly. Because bud is the damage of your hit divided by your attack speed. But once you're down into 1.5 seconds, there's not much of a change. But going from 5.5 to 1.5 just for free because you're using Strongheart. Okay. Strongheart himself would be at the one we saw him earlier is at 1.13. Getting him lower than that doesn't matter. Not really. It might get you one more stack. Or maybe 2 more stacks of Righteous Might. That's nice. But if you're using other champions who aren't the best potential buffers just to try to get him another buff. It might not be worth it. You test it. Here's the thing though. You said Virgil, Wyll, Alindra. That combination does not need to exist. All you need is a little. Alindra with Wyll. Call that a little. Alindra and Wyll together. With the buffs, both their buffs applying to your primary DPS, cap their attack speed. They attack on base animation cooldown. Period. There might be some item levels with that, but that's, you really just need that combo. If you don't have a lot of item levels, you might have to add someone else, but you'd have Strongheart in here anyway already, so you wouldn't need to add Virgil. Wyll and Alindra with the right gear are already at animation speed. They literally trigger. It boosts Wyll's bonus that lets a champion attack. It gives a champion a chance to attack again after they do their attack, and it guarantees it. So it's just rapid fire. We call that either a chainsaw formation with a melee champion, or a machine gun formation with a ranged champion, ranged or magic attack champion, because it's just constant. It's just constant. Yeah, I mean, could you, if those are your best champions, if that's your slot 2 and your slot 6 that you want to use, sure. Do you need to? I don't think so. Here we go. Rosie's coming in a little lower than Karlach was. Again, I love Karlach, but man, I think I have. Here's the thing: I have a bigger investment in Karlach's legendaries. I don't know if those legendary effects are applying to Rosie. I need to get Rosie's up to a comparable level to really find out how they compare. I just haven't done that yet, right? Also, I had a Starian, and we're losing a Starian's buff too, so they're fairly comparable. Like I said, I think you can put any melee DPS in with Duke and Strongheart, and it's going to get real nice. It's going to get real nice, but there's some are going to be better than others. Right? Nibbles, how would Krull be in her formation? I mean, Krull doesn't care who's in his formation. Krull is one of those champions that is formation agnostic. He just does what he does. He doesn't even care if his own affiliation is in. Honestly, that affiliation doesn't work together. So can you use Krull? Sure. Sure. Are there better options? I think so. But here, folks, if we're talking about Krull over here. He is melee, but he's putting out a debuff, right? And then he's doing his traitor damage, right, as well on top of that. Like, what are you looking for? Have I done it? Yes. Absolutely. Do I do it lately? No, not really. I think some of these are, it's gonna depend on what your investment in your Krull is, but I think some of these other champions just, they build to Karlach's strengths or manage her weaknesses better than Krull does. And we're already dealing with a lot of ramping here, which requires survivability. So Krull fits in, but just depends. Again, there's lots of options. Like, I like a lot of other champions. It doesn't have to be these. The key here for me is I'm using Karlach, and then Strongheart and Duke Ravengard, right? And then whatever else is going to work best. Situation I'm in. Like, Matt, have you been able to use the Karlach Meta in many Zerial variants recently? I haven't done any variants recently. But I mean, I've done, like, the ones I have done, we've just ripped through, I feel like. I haven't done variants at all recently. We've been doing other things, event stuff or working on guides or whatever. I haven't really sat down and tried to chew through her variants. El Pollo Batman, thoughts on buying Modron Course from Wild offers? So which ones, which not? Isn't there only one? Chat, help me out. I thought there was only one that's in a Wild offer, and it's like the Heroes of Aroas. I need a yes, no before I continue the conversation. Because I think that's it. Sean, do you remember it all? I think it's just the Heroes of Erois that would be a wild offer core. I think the rest are gem cores. Several? That doesn't make any sense to me. Which ones are... Let me go through this. Modest core, split the party 1. Strong, fast core, split the party 2. Magic core, split the party 3. Strong core, 500,000 gems. Erois core, wild offers. Unaffiliated core, gems. Dexterous core, gems. I thought these were both gems. Yeah. The problem is I can't click down here and see. It doesn't tell me where I got them from. But I'm pretty sure Erois is the only one that came out. These two were, yeah. This was in a paid track in a season, which meant it came out in a wild offer. And these were gems because these were in the free tracks. There are no event rewards. We've never had a core as an event reward. Again, these 3, 5, 6, and 7 were seasons. Seasons don't exist anymore. Seasons live on a farm upstate. No, we can't go visit them. These 3 are your split the party cores, and this was the original OG gem core. OG gem core. So it should just be Erois. So here's the thing. If the Heroes of Erois are your jam, if they're what you want to use, then the Heroes of Erois core, then the Erois core is probably a core you want. Maybe. Otherwise, it is just an extra core that you can use to automate things in the background. Its use case scenario in a wild offer is really the fact that leveling it up is going to get you 14 Modron chests, right? Because it starts at level 1 and you get 1 every level to 15, right? So what you do is you come over here and you go, well, how much are Modron component chests? Closest comparison is 16 chests for $22.99. So if it was, less, because it's right around $22.99. If it's less than this, then if it's right around the same price, you're getting roughly, like if it's $20, you're getting $19.99. You're getting roughly the same value as if you were buying Modron chests, but you're going to get a core you can use to automate a background party. If it's cheaper though, like if it were $12 or $10, which is, it can be $10, it then becomes a very good value core to buy just to get the Modron component chests from leveling it up. Plus whatever else comes in its pack, right? I know that sounds weird, but it's just not a great... bonus. It's just not a great core on its own. It was designed... There was an experiment to see what if we built cores around affiliations. And I don't know that they really leaned into that. I don't know that they did enough experiments in that regard to really get a good answer. I think that one wasn't necessarily designed the best, but it was interesting. I think it really needed to be better. Like it really needed to be like the go-to, like, and really be really good when you have that, if you're just using that group. And I don't know that it quite achieved that. It did during its season, but there were also matching buffs during the season, and that made the two together work really well. And what it needed to be is that good outside of season, so that when you're using the Heroes of Erois, it blows them up and makes them super strong. I don't feel like it achieved that. Lurking Rider would know. Erois Core beats Magic Core if you're running the full team, have it fully charged, and need champion health. Anything else than that, and then Magic is comparable or better. The Magic Core is, because your DPS in the Heroes of Erois is Lucius. He's a Magic base attack champion. The Magic Core is the Glass Cannon Core. It has no survivability whatsoever, so no health bonuses, but it gives you lots of damage bonuses. So usually when you're pushing really deep, you need the health too. So there you go. So outside that, it functions If you're not using the Heroes of Erois, if you're not maining them, it functions as a delivery system for more Modron component chests. Yorick the Young. So what do you do if you don't have Strongheart? You use whatever you got. Like this is Idle Champions. You use whatever you got. Like I said at the top of the stream, when you're deciding to use, when you're trying to build a formation, you're picking a primary DPS. In this case, we were talking about Karlach. And then you're building the best potential group around them that you can based off the champions that you have. I highlighted what I think really makes her shine, which is you just need 2 other champions, Strongheart and Duke Ravengard. That's a pretty easy reach for most people if they already have Karlach to pick up those 2 and really unleash her strength. It becomes more complicated if you try to pair her then with Wyll and then find all the champions that you need to really make a strong group out of that. It's a bigger pool, right? But you don't have to use any of that. You can just put Karlach in and then build your best buffers around her. Again, you're trying to maximize her strengths and reduce her weaknesses. How do you maximize her strength? Make her attack faster, so she builds up her rage faster. So if you have a strong champion that can take Strongheart's place, like Wyll is a huge attack speed booster. Or if you've got Alindra and Wyll together, that's going to do it. If you already have them and they're strong. But those are ways to do it. Anything that makes her attack faster is gonna be helpful, but you don't necessarily do that to the exclusion of anything else, right? Like you need combinations of you need a champion that's going to be a good buffer and boost attack speed. For her, a Strongheart paired with Duke Ravengard is the best case scenario. But you could use Wyll, you could use Virgil, you can use Human. Human's got an attack speed reduction if you're adjacent to Human. There's options. But you have to figure that out. If you don't have Strongheart, you have to figure out who replaces Strongheart. Because I can't get on your account and tell you. Surreal. So is Karlach greater than Artemis now? Here's the thing. I hate Artemis. I hate Artemis because everybody thinks Artemis is the only champion you can use in Idle Champions. And people in the Discord tell people, like brand new players, pick up Artemis. Just use Artemis the whole game. No. Please don't. There are a lot of champions that are better than Artemis for the early and mid game, and even breaking into the start of the late game. There are a lot of DPS champions that you can build formations around with less of an investment in item levels and gear to get equivalent or better damage than Artemis. Karlach is one of them. For sure. Artemis needs high, he needs full epic, he needs lots of item levels, and he needs a very specific set of champions, like type of champions, and they have to have lots of item levels too. And when I say a lot, Artemis really starts to shine at around 1,000 item levels. And then other people are versions of that. So like they do this breakdown where you need like 10 4 1, I think is one of the breakdowns I saw, or something like that. I can't remember. So like for every 10 item levels on Artemis, you put a certain number on the others and a certain number on others. And Moanulu, it is true. Oh, he's a fine. I'm not saying he's a horrible DPS at with low item levels. But he's not. What I'm trying to tell people, you can again. I don't know how many times I have to say this. Play the game however you want to play the game. I will always say that. But Moanulu, what I stated is true. There are better champions than Artemis in the early and mid game at lower or equivalent item levels. There are better DPS champions. That is 100% a fact. I've done this on new player accounts. I've done this on this account. I used to blow people's minds because I had an Artemis that had a golden flute with the 700 item levels, and I would build out the meta formations, and they were garbage compared to the other formations with other champions I was using with less item level. he has a certain, he has to hit a certain break point, a certain mathematical efficiency, and so do all of the other champions with him have to hit their matching things for him to take off. It is a late game into end game thing. You should not be worried about Artemis in the early to the mid game. You just shouldn't. It's slowing your, it's going to slow your progress down. For the sake of being really strong a lot later. And I don't want to do that to people. I want people to fly through stuff. Because you can. You absolutely can with other champions. Moanulu, I've done this. Please stop telling me to play the game. I've been doing this for 7 years. I've been here for 7 years. I've been doing this for 7 years. I've played Artemis on, I've played these champions on new player accounts. I do new player accounts every year. I know what the current state of the game is. Please don't tell me that I don't know what I'm doing. If you want to write guides, you can, and go do mathematical comparisons, go do it on the subreddit. But I have done real world tests of these on streams with people. There's better options than Artemis. Don't lock yourself into Artemis. If you want to play Artemis late game, fine, but don't lock yourself in the early game and the mid game. There's better champions. I mean, the fact that you can do the damage you can with a Holy Trinity formation, you just need 3 champions. You can't do that kind of stuff. Like with Artemis. You can put him in a Holy Trinity. He is a melee DPS, but he scales off item levels. And the abilities of other people, positional abilities of other people. Rough Rider, how often should we ask to get Taco Cat for familiar? I don't know. I just thought that was a joke for Dev Insights the other day. I don't know. Charlations is a Karlach lover who tends to use Thalora, Lae'zel, Omen, Karlach, Valentine, Duke, Rust, and Bobby. What are you Bobby as a buffer? Who'd you use to get between Pwent and Certainty as a final flex? Probably Pwent to feed into... Yeah, probably Pwent. Pwent can give you a higher crit chance against enemies that he's bled. Yeah. And he's another melee for Duke Ravengard. Yeah. Bobby just a buffer? Yeah, I'm guessing you're using Bobby support. Guess that's fine. I would really want Strongheart in there soon, though. But yeah, I mean, those champions all work fine. I just want to make sure you're not using Bobby as a tank. A lot of people try to use Bobby as a tank. I'm like, that's not how Bobby works. That's not how Bobby works. We're out of questions. Am I seeing anything? Oh, I didn't see this one in here. Rough Rider, since you've moved on to Karlach, does Jaheira talk to you anymore? I mean, Jaheira is still a strong DPS. Jaheira replied, Jaheira and Narak cry themselves to sleep every night. Narak used to be my main. I used to be a Narak main for DPS. And I'm still sad. But Karlach makes up for that. But I will forever be sad until they fix Narak, so I can put Narak back in these formations sometimes. Where even is Narak anymore? Oh, he's here. Oh, he's with Duke Ravengard, so I can't put him in a Karlach formation anyway. But when I can't use the Duke, I would want to use Narak, and I can't because Narak is using half of a champion's kit because they bury the other half behind a mechanic that doesn't work in in a game with lag is just... I just refuse to use him on that premise alone. But yeah, I miss Rack. But you know, there's a lot. I use some of these champions. Like I'll use Caddy Bree as a DPS. Obviously we've used Bobby and Rosie as a DPS recently. I've used I'll use Birdsong as a DPS. I've used Jaheira as a DPS. Not in the not so distant past. Yeah. They can, I mean, a lot of these champions are great for doing content. Orange Cores, which dwarf would you like to see in the game in the future? All of them. All of them. Yes, Bayushikira got it. You got it, just looked over it. Yeah. Bayushikira knows the answer. All of them. We're wrapping it up here, folks. If I were going for from like books, I would like to see Athrogate with Clacker and Whacker, or the Fist and Fury, the Tanabritches sisters, the twin queens of Gauntlgrim. I think they would be a great addition to the Companions of the Hall thing. Athrogate would be great for to work with like Jarlaxle. Well, I mean that's his thing, Jarlaxle and Artemis and all of them. You know, would I love to see my dwarf in the game? I've got a couple dwarves. I'm playing one on Wednesdays over on the Dungeon Scrollers channel. At least for one more episode I will be. We have our finale of the Affairs of Wizards this Wednesday, folks. There's an in-game pop-up that comes up for the Dungeon Scrollers for the Affairs of Wizards. But I play a dwarven finger waggler named Bandy, who, spoiler alert, is currently standing in the middle of a bonfire next to a stake that someone had been tied to. The fire is lit around him. He's in the one spot that doesn't have a flame at the moment. Outside of the fire, he's a wizard, by the way, so not a lot of health. Outside of the fire are 4 enemies that he's surrounded by. And the rest of his party is all the way back at a gate, facing 1 or 2 enemies and aren't going to be able to get to him. This finale is going to be the end of Bandy's run, one way or the other. Tune in on Wednesday. We got to get out of here, folks. End credit song is not related to today's topic at all, because there aren't really. It's going to be Displaced Displacer. Last question, York the Young. How do we get more core types? I just kind of talked about that when we were here. Modest core, split the party 1, split the party 2, split the party 3. Wild offers only 500,000 gems, 500,000 gems, 500,000 gems. All those gem ones are down here at the bottom. Buy additional cores, they will show up here. That's it, folks. This is the last stream of the week for the CNA Games channel. They usually return on Tuesdays. However, you can come hang out with me some more over on my channel, Twitch TV/Gaarawarr. I'll put my name in chat so you can click it, toss me a follow. I'll be streaming in about an hour-ish. We've been playing God of War, the more recent one with Boy. Not the new one that's coming out, obviously, because that's not out yet. But we're getting pretty far. I've got Kratos decked out in legendary dwarven armor. Because of course I do. So come hang out. We also play Idle Champions over there on Mondays and Wednesdays, and answer questions as well. Thanks for hanging out and asking questions. Thanks to Sean for grabbing all the questions. Again, we're out of here. I gotta go get a burrito. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, everybody.
Displaced and dispossessed, forever on the run, we never rest. It's here to put our skills to the test. Can you tell me where I've been? To the underdog from my native ring, try to find a new home in the in-between. Every day the same arrangement, hunt to kill and miss a strange way. Oh.
No issues or anything that time. It was great.